I would say that your mess is your message. And to get over that guilt and that shame is there's nothing to be guilty or shame about. Like you were given that whatever you went through, you're given it for a reason, and the reason could possibly be to share it with someone, the person after you who needs to see you to know that they can get through the journey the same way that you did. After I wrote Panic to Picnic, people were telling me how much my book meant to them and how much they thought that they were the only ones in the world that had certain thoughts, and then one person said that my book made them cry. So if I didn't write that, if I didn't give myself a voice, then that person would have never had that experience. So I think that if more people use their stories and shared their stories, they would find that person that would resonate, and they would get the same feeling that I got, that they were able to help someone. And stories help people. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about it.
It is the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast.
So why would I walk away if God said I can handle it? If He has endowed me with dunamis power that lives in me, how can I live defeated?
But one of the things that I realized was that I'm a person too.
You're in the wilderness and you don't even realize it.
And so now we walk around with the spirit of offense and unforgiveness and anger and bitterness. And God has to get that stuff off of us first. Thriving Decrees for the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss is a power move. It is packed with thought-provoking, life-changing tools to help you thrive in the kingdom as a wife, as a mom, and as a leader who is seeking to see the fruit of God's promises in her life. Make sure you go to my website at www.clemetradeshay.com and order your copy. Hey, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. You know how we love our special guest. I am here with Miss Tara Hayes. Tara, can you say hey to the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss community?
Hi, everybody.
Hey. All right. So Tara here is a publisher, and she has a lot of things going on. And I thought it would be amazing to have Tara come on to talk to the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss community that is interested in publishing a book or interested in telling their story. She is the author of Terrified Publishing, correct?
The business is Terrified Publishing. The book is Panic to Picnic.
Panic to Okay. Wait, okay, because I was already about to get in. First, can you introduce yourself to the community?
Sure. My name is Tara Hayes. I'm the author of Panic to Picnic, and I'm the owner of Terrified Publishing, in which I guide coaches and consultants through the publishing process from start to finish.
That is awesome. All right. So, where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, girl. Oh, dear. You up there, up there. How's the weather right now?
Very cold. It's it For the last couple years it's been mild during the winter, but this year it's been very cold. We had snow last week, so we got about 7 inches. So we haven't had that much snow in a long time, so I'm ready to get rid of it.
Ah, I know that's right. So, I was just telling you, it was 20 something degrees here this morning, and girl, was just not used to that temperature. And I'm like, well, it happens every now and then, but I feel like it's been for the last couple of weeks, of course, with the snowstorm and everything going on. But I'm like, I cannot wait until we get back up into the like put me back at least in the 40s. Like I'm good there. Just take me out of the 20s because literally all I want to do is just cuddle on the couch and like rest or something. So it's affecting my workflow a little bit, but we're working on it. We're getting through it. So let's talk about this book. We're gonna jump right into the book. Let's talk about Panic to Picnic. What is that about?
So, Panic to Picnic is about my personal journey with anxiety. I've had anxiety since I was a child, so it goes through my childhood, adolescence, adulthood, through the different phases of anxiety I've had. I've had social anxiety. I've had all sorts of anxiety. I've had obsessive thoughts. I thought I had OCD. So I went through every phase of anxiety you could think of. There's something called agoraphobia I've had where it's being fear of the marketplace, being outside. You just don't feel comfortable anywhere. It was 24/7 anxiety. So I tell how I got through that, which is natural ways to reduce anxiety. And I also, before I tell my natural ways, I tell about how I was on prescription medication for years. My dad was a pharmacist, and my psychiatrist told me to never get off the medication, but I had another plan for myself. And I used these 15 natural strategies to get off of the anxiety medication. And I've been off for about, I would say about almost 9 years now. I've been managing my anxiety naturally. So that's what Panic to Picnic is about. And other people hope to let them know that they're not alone in their struggle with anxiety.
Wow. Do you know where your anxiety stemmed from, where it was rooted in?
I have no idea, honestly. I think that being shy and introverted and not having a lot of self-esteem coming up and really not having that empowerment or a family that was supportive as far as supporting dreams, I think that was it. And my parents gave me the food and the shelter and but I don't think I had the emotional support that I needed. So I think a lot of it stemmed from that. And then a lot of my extended family have anxiety too. I don't know if it just runs in the family. And I also think that as a child, my father would yell. I think that caused anxiety. And then sometimes, in the Black community, there's corporal punishment. So I experienced that too. So I think maybe that had something to do with my anxiety too. So those are my reasonings for it, but I really don't know where it stemmed from, honestly.
That, yeah. And I know we had a very brief conversation at the beginning of this where you said, you grew up in a Christian home, but you currently you're not residing in a church or anything or doing anything like that. And so for me, I'm still in a church and still in, just walking with God and getting instructions with God, for me, it was real important to get to the root of it. And so, like, for me, mine was rejection. It wasn't necessarily an anxiety, it was rejection. And so for me, it was really important to get to the root of what that issue was. But yeah, finding ways to like feel it when it's coming on and stop it.
Hmm.
Because nobody likes the feeling of that thing. I had one moment where I can really remember where anxiety was trying to come on and I pulled
Hmm.
over and I was like, no. And
Hmm.
like I was like, no, we are not doing that. And I had to really just like shut it down in the moment because the feeling of it is just so overwhelming and overpowering. So I think your book probably helps a lot of people out. And so we are going to start a little early. Tell me a little bit about I just want to know because this is Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, Kingdom Conversations, Kingdom Community, and it's okay for people who aren't like completely, drenched in like they're still on their journey. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I would like to know how your church upbringing brought you to this place where you just feel like you don't categorize yourself as a Christian anymore.
Right. So what I would say, and I just wanted to your part about the anxiety fighting it. So I use a different approach where you actually feel it. I know it's uncomfortable, but you feel it, and then once you feel it and you let yourself know that there's not really a threat there, then it dissipates. So I just wanted to add that to that. So when you're not fighting it, you just let it be. But as far as growing up in the church, I used to go to church every Sunday with my mom and she would take us to the church and we would go to my grandma's house afterwards. So it was a church in Philadelphia. And I think what happened was I had questions for my grandmother and she couldn't answer them for me. So I said, Grandma, could you help me find certain parts in the Bible. Could you help me? And she's like, oh no, you gotta go to the pastor. And I was like, all right, well, Grandma, you've been in church your whole life, so why couldn't you answer me? So I think that was it. And also we went to church on Sunday, and then during the week it was pretty secular. Like Sunday was church, and then during the week it was it was just like secular. So it was like just a weekly thing. So I think that I didn't. get the proper exposure. Even though I was there weekly, I wasn't reading the Bible. I wasn't, and it wasn't enforced. So I think that's what it is. Um, but I will say that I still do listen to gospel music because I still do like that. I grew up with that. And then there's parts of me that still wants to go to a church, but my church doesn't exist anymore. So it got bulldozed over, and I just haven't found um a church home because you like the community of it, and you like what's taught and just having that environment. So I grew up in it. So there's a part of me in there that's still longing for it, if that makes sense. So, and then I might not go physically to a church, but I do get to see live stream of it. So,
I think that that story is incredibly relatable to a lot of people who I'll say even for me, I grew up in the church. My grandfather was an overseer. My grandmother was a mother. My mother was an evangelist, after some time. And so I grew up in this church and we went to this church every week and, sometimes multiple times a week for Bible study or youth night, whichever. And I found out that when I got older, I still didn't really comprehend or understand. Like I still had questions. And I know that I didn't ask those questions. I honestly believe I was a little like intimidated to ask those questions. I didn't want
hmm
anybody to think that I didn't understand. And
hmm
so when you said that, you still had this thing burning inside of you immediately, the scripture that pops up in my spirit is, to train a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. And from that, there are seeds that are planted in us when we go into these spaces when we are growing up in church. And even if we don't completely walk in it or we don't completely understand, like there's always this draw of what you grew up with. And that draw will sometimes, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for the draw because it doesn't allow us to completely walk away or, say that, we don't believe in God because we do. We just have questions, right?
hmm
And so I do think your story is incredibly relatable to a lot of people. And I'm grateful to hear that, you haven't thrown it away. You are still
Right.
interested in it and you're still searching for it. I think that is absolutely amazing. And I pray you find clarity on that journey. I think that journey is so important because when I got back into church, meaning I got out of the world. Another thing too, you said the rest of the days of the week were secular. I think that is one thing I try to do with my kids. And because I grew up the way that I grew up, I try to have very transparent conversations with them. Very
hmm
honest, very open, very transparent conversations with them. So, like when I'm telling them to stop something or when I'm telling them to not do something, I also tell them that I struggled with it and how I got over it.
hmm
And so, those conversations. So throughout the week, I try to reinforce the word. And that is
hmm
simply because it wasn't really the way that I grew up entirely. My mom was a
hmm
single mom, so most of the time she was working a lot, a lot, a lot. She always made sure that we made our way to church. And when she got to a point where she could like digress from it a little bit, she went to church. But the way that I grew up, that definitely shifted the way that I raised my kids because and my mom was there too. Like when she got to the point where she was an evangelist, she made sure she reinforced the word of God to them as well, 24/7. And
hmm
so I do hear that story a lot of just church on Sundays. And so I
hmm
I entirely get that. Thank you so much for sharing that part of your life with us because I'd imagine it's probably not always easy to talk about.
Right. You're welcome.
All right, girl. So let's get into this. You are a wellness advocate. Tell us a little bit about that. What brought you into this space of being a wellness advocate?
So, what got me into the space of being a wellness advocate is my own journey with anxiety. So, as I developed my journey, let me start a little bit how I got into the publishing to begin with. So, I was working full time in accounting, and I got laid off from both jobs. So within a 10-month period, and they both said that we like you, but we don't think this is a fit for you. So I had a ton of anxiety, didn't know my next turn. And that's when I came across the ad on YouTube for self-publishing. And at first, I didn't know what I wanted to write about. I said, what can I write a book about? And at the time, I was into exercise, I was into the green smoothies, I was into meditation. And I said, well, I don't think I could write a book about green smoothies because I still eat the crap. So I felt like I wasn't 100% with that. And then meditation, I didn't have enough knowledge in meditation to write a book about that. So I said the constant that's been in my life has been anxiety. So I said, well, I could write my book about anxiety. So that's how the book came about. And then as I wanted to find more, get more eyes on the book, I thought I needed to become a life coach. So I took up life coaching. And then what had helped me with my anxiety was then more natural healing. So that's why I call myself a wellness advocate. It was the exercise, it was the green smoothies, it was the supplements that I was taking. I was taking ashwagandha. I would also take magnesium, other supplements, and the green smoothies, what I put in the smoothies, those were what would help me with my anxiety that the natural would had replaced the medication I was on. So that's why I consider myself a wellness advocate. And then when I wanted to help other publish books, I was drawn to a wellness space because of my experience with anxiety. So.
Why, first of all, what does a publisher actually do?
So what a publisher does, there's different types of publishing. So I'm in the indie publishing space. So what I do as a publisher is I take a look at the manuscript and I evaluate how much work needs to be done, how much editing. So there's different levels of editing. There's copy editing, there's line editing, there's developmental, which is more of rewriting of the book or more adding to the book. The pacing, the structure of the book. So that's developmental. So I look at the manuscript and see how much work it needs. And then once we're done the editing, we get the formatting of the book done. And then we get the cover design done. And then we also get them up on their desired platform, whether that be Amazon, whether that be Ingram Spark, or Draft to Digital. So that's what a publisher does. And then what I do is I guide the authors through the process. I'm not just an upload specialist, but I work through the blocks because there's a lot of blocks that come with anxiety. I mean, with writing and publishing a book, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with it. So if there's someone who has a book idea they need help getting it out of their head, then I can help them with that too. So it's I call it publisher, but I'm really a guide and there's some coaching involved, but I so those are the roles of a publisher and also help them, the barcode on the back of the book, so I help them get their identifier, the ISBN for their book. So that's everything that I do as a publisher. So, but there's different types of publishing.
So, do you have a team that does your editing, or do you have somebody that you work with that does the editing for the book?
Yeah, I do have a few editors that I work with, and I have someone who does the cover design, and I have someone who does the formatting. So what I do is I'm the face, so I communicate. I'm the communication channel with the authors, and then once we get the book to the point where it's ready for upload, I handle the upload. But I'm very much the project manager and very much the person that takes the stress and the overwhelm away from the author, so I take it on so they don't have to deal with it.
Okay. What are some of the best platforms that you found for publishers to self-publish their book? Because there's so many different platforms.
Hmm. So I recommend Amazon first because Amazon is 80% of the marketplace. When people are going to get a book, they're going to go to Amazon before any other platform. The next one I recommend is a platform called Ingram Spark, and that's because you could set up the channels for bookstores and libraries to purchase your book. Now, that doesn't guarantee placement, but it just gives you a better chance if a bookstore or a library wants to hold your book, then you get on Ingram Spark for that reason. And also, I when I was going to get my book into a bookstore, the bookstore told me that I couldn't get it in there because I was only published to Amazon. And the reason was because I had the ISBN just for Amazon. And I didn't know that at first. I didn't know publishing my book that my in using their free ISBN that I was only bound to Amazon. So that was a learning curve I learned in the beginning. So and then the third platform I recommend is Draft to Digital because it's for ebook, so for wider global distribution, But again, you're not guaranteed. It's just open up those channels for on that platform. And then one more platform I use also is called Lulu. And I use Lulu because Amazon doesn't do like the spiral bound. You know how notebooks have like a spiral? So Amazon doesn't do that. So if an author wants a spiral bound book, we use Amazon and we use Ingram Spark. I'm sorry. We use Lulu for that platform. So
I actually use Lulu to publish my books.
okay.
The two books that I have published, I published them through Lulu. So I do like Lulu. The first book I did not do for global distribution. So this book I am looking, I guess I'll hook it up for global distribution.
Okay.
All right. So why are you so passionate about others telling their story? Like what makes you so passionate about it?
I think the passion came from my own journey. And originally, I was afraid to share my story because I'm this shy introvert. I grew up very shy, introverted, and then all of a sudden I wrote a book. So originally, I thought that I was going to be judged by people like, oh, Tara barely talked in high school, and now all of a sudden she's writing a book. So, and it just took that courage. So I know the courage it takes to put yourself out there into a book. So, and I think the passion just comes because we all love to hear stories. And I think that we all have stories that need to be told because one day, unfortunately, we're all not going to be here. So we want to leave our legacy and who we were behind for the people that are come behind that are going to be coming after us. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about sharing stories because and then it gives us a voice. So after I wrote Panic to Picnic, people were telling me how much my book meant to them and how much they thought that they were the only ones in the world that had certain thoughts and then one person said that my book made them cry. So I never, if I didn't write that, if I didn't give myself a voice, then that person would have never had that experience. So I think that if more people use their stories and shared their stories, they would find that person that would resonate and they would get the same feeling that I got that they were able to help someone. And stories help people. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Oh, I love that part. Stories help people, definitely. And so for me, I'll call it, I say your testimony of how you got over a situation or how you deal with the situation is going to help deliver somebody else out of their situation. And there are a lot of times where shame is what keeps people from giving that testimony or from telling that story. And so I wonder in your business, do you find that more people have shame to tell their stories? Guilt to share their stories, or are they just lost and don't know how to start this process out?
Most of the people I've come across are lost. They don't know how to start it. They don't know how much time it's going to take, and they don't know how much energy it's going to take. Like when I published my book or wrote my book, I didn't realize it was going to be transforming. I just thought, oh, I'm gonna write this book and I'm gonna make some money. That's what I originally thought. But then it turned into a movement of helping other people heal while I was healing myself, right? So I think that a lot of people just don't know where to begin. They want to do it. Their intentions are what are it's well-meaning intentions or they love the idea of writing a book, but then when it comes down to actually sit down and do it, they get scared or they freeze up. They have the anxiety about it. They don't have the confidence to write the book. Like I said, when I published mine, I didn't have the confidence to tell anybody about it. So I think that's a lot of what people go through, and they already think that there's so many books on their expertise. Is like, why does the world need my book? So I think a lot of people go through that too, but nobody can tell your book or your story the way you can. So it doesn't matter how many books are out there, as long as you touch the right person with your words, then you've done your job as writing your book. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, excuse me. So for anybody that you come across that maybe have some kind of like guilt or shame towards their books, like how would you get them over, I guess, the healing part of that to let them know how important it is that they tell their story?
So, anyone who has the guilt or shame, I would probably use myself as an example. I used to have guilt and shame about being anxious or having anxiety or why was I stuck or why was I like this? And then it really became sort of a gift because if I didn't have this anxiety, I probably would have never started a business, probably would have never talked to anyone, probably would have never had anything to overcome. So I would say that your mess is your message. And to get over that guilt and that shame is there's nothing to be guilty or shame about. Like you were given that whatever you went through, you're given it for a reason, and the reason could possibly be to share it with someone, the person after you who needs to see you to know that they can get through the journey the same way that you did.
Yes, I truly believe that God, the struggles that we have, the things that we go through, God takes those things and He turns them into messages and testimonies for other people. First, He helps us to be delivered out of it, and then He allows us to reach back and turn to others. There's a part in the Bible where God is telling Peter, when once you come to, you need to turn around and help somebody else. And I
Hmm.
believe truly that when you see authors or coaches or people writing books that are transformative, even if they don't realize that it's transformative, that is part of that turning around and helping somebody else come out of a situation so that they can have a testimony and a message too, because it might not be just like the one that you're experiencing, but it will relate to somebody else in what God,
Hmm.
is calling for them to speak to it. So beautiful, beautiful testimony. You said you've been in publishing for 6 years or 7 years. I guess we're going on 7 years because it was 2019, right?
Yeah, going on 7 years, I've been in the publishing space. So I published two books. Painted to Picnic is the one that I talk about most. And then after that, then I did uh kind of pivot to life coaching for a little bit. And then I decided 2024 was the year that I was going to focus just on publishing for other people. So I've been in the space and then and I was also doing lead magnets for people. So I was helping people develop those. Like I did one for a grief counselor. I did a lead magnet for, it was a pet grooming business. I did a lead magnet for a bookkeeper, and then we turned it into an ebook. So I've always been in the space, but I really didn't hone in on it until about 2024. And I know that earlier in my journey, there were people asking me to help them publish the book. And I was like, well, you have to take the same course that I took, not knowing I could start my own publishing company. So I had started my publishing company in December of 2021, but then I really didn't hone in on the process because when you do something, you do it, but then sometimes you don't know how to relate it to people. It's like, oh, I can do it, but can I show someone else to do it? So I had to figure out how to do it, my own process, separate from the course that I took. So I had to figure out a way where I could teach it to other people or actually work with someone. So, and at first I didn't have the confidence. That's why when those people were asking me in the beginning, that's why I referred them to the course that I took. But it took some development on my end to actually say, okay, now I can help people do what I did instead of just sending them somewhere else. Or I just had to develop my own process. So.
So what are what are the most changes that you've seen over the last couple of years concerning the publishing, industry?
Some of the changes I've seen. I would say that there's a lot of people out there that do what I do. Like there's a lot of independent publishers. I didn't realize there were so many people out there that do what I do. And I would say one of the biggest changes is that indie publishing has become more of a thing. Before, it was just traditional publishing, like you had to go through the big publishers like the Penguins and the HarperCollins. So I think that more people are feeling more empowered to publish and then they want more control over their books. I think that that has been a change in the industry, but there still are people who do want the traditional process because they think that'll give them the credibility. But I believe that if you do your book right in the indie publishing space, like you hire someone like me or someone else, whoever you resonate with, then your book can be just as good as a traditionally published book. And you just have to market it. So, and you just have to not put it on Amazon and think that it's going to sell, but it's not going to sell if you don't tell anybody about it. So, but I think there's just been a a really emergence of the indie publishing because I didn't hear about it until 6 years ago, until 2019 when I published. I was like, self-published, what is that? So, but it's just become more and more popular as the years have gone by.
I think there was a point in time where people were like tired of giving other people the power to reject their story. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I do know when I first started looking to publish my book, I was looking to see, how do you get your book into a publisher's hands? And the process is so long and drawn out. I was
Hmm.
like, I ain't got time for this process. I don't have time for this process. So it was like, okay, Lord, we're gonna self-publish. And
Hmm.
so, as I looked into it more and more, I was like, these people have the authority because it's their publishing company to say,
Hmm.
no, we're not going to publish your story. And for anyone who did not understand that they could self-publish their book, then you're just kind of stuck with your story and the feeling of rejecting and feeling like no one wanted to hear your story. So I agree. I do think that self-publishing gives the author an empowerment. Like it
Hmm.
empowers them to know that this is my story and I have the say so over my story and how I want it to be published and where I want it to go. And I do think that self-publishing is something like I think we all are grateful for the self-publishing space. Also, it's not costing us thousands and thousands of dollars to just even get the book out of the door. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know why when everything comes out, it has to be like a limited club. You can't do this unless you
Hmm.
have this. And it's like whenever we wake up and we realize, like, who are these people? Like, we can
Hmm.
do whatever it is that we need to do. So I am grateful for the space. Marketing and book sales, we did talk some about that. Those things can be incredibly complicated. I
Hmm.
think for a lot of people, the issue is the marketing aspect of it. Like, how do you market your book? What do
Hmm.
you do? What do you say? So, what are a couple of tips that you would give those people to help them market their book and get their book into the hands of the people that they wrote it for?
So I would say the first thing you have to do is you have to know who you're writing for. And I think I made that mistake when I wrote my book. I was writing for people who wanted to heal naturally from anxiety, or I wrote for myself, but then I was attracting people who were still stuck in anxiety. So I wanted the action takers, but I got people who were stuck and didn't want to do anything. So I think the first thing you have to do is you have to know who you're writing for. You have to know what you want them to get out of the book. And then, so you have to know who you're talking to. And also, when marketing your book, even before you write on the page, if you know you're going to write a book, you need to start telling people immediately. Start telling your friends, your families. Don't wait until your book is done because you're not going to have anyone who's going to buy the book. So I would say start the buzz early, social media, friends, families, local shops, wherever you have to do like a grassroots strategy. So I would say start that even before you're done the book, because I think a lot of people make that mistake and once I have a published book, oh, now I have to market it. So, and also knowing that the book is not the finish line, like the book is just the beginning. So because you have to market it afterwards. And I would also say that that what I do is for my authors, I do offer a Amazon bestseller campaign for the ebook version of the book, so help them get that visibility outside of the friends and the family. So it trains the Amazon algorithm to see your book. So people who would normally not see the book, they would start to see it and then they would download the book and then during that period, you would get the best chance of hitting bestseller. And also, it's the keywords too, so you have to make sure you're picking the right keywords when you get on Amazon. And there's so many ways to market the book. And also, I think a lot of authors make the mistake of thinking just putting it on Amazon and not having a home for their book. So you want to make sure that you have a landing page. So because when you publish your book to Amazon and people purchase it, unfortunately, Amazon does not give you the names of the people who purchased the book. So once you have a landing page, and you can collect those people's email addresses. You send out those those feelers to them to keep them on their journey. So you send that out to them. And also, there was one more thing I wanted to say too about the marketing, but it went out of my head. Um, I don't remember what it was.
That's all right. It'll come back to you.
Yeah.
You have a post on your LinkedIn and it said a book doesn't build your business, strategy does. And I think for any of us who have been in a space of writing a book that by yourself, that is something that you learn. Something you would probably like to learn a little sooner, but something at some point that you learn. So I am grateful for the publishing or self-publishing companies, I guess I should say, that
Hmm.
are leading and campaigning these people through it, because it does take a lot of strategy. You can't just write a book. I remember the first time I was in a cohort. I don't remember. Oh, it was Tina. I remember who it was. It was Tina Moore's Crazy. It wasn't Crazy Crazy. It was this Confidence Academy is what it was. And I was telling her, okay, I'll start going live in 2022. I think this is the end of 2021.
Hmm.
And she was like, "You're gonna start going live in 2022." I said, "Yeah, I have this book and I need to go through this book. Like I'm gonna go through the days. It's 28 days. And so each day I'll just discuss the book." And she was like, "You're gonna start in January." And I'm like, "Yeah." She was like, "No, you need to start now." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like I'm not." She said, "No, you need to start now going live or nobody's gonna be there in January when you start talking about the book."
Hmm.
And so it's stuff like that. Like I think in our head, we're like, okay, I have this plan and I'm going to start this plan at this time and the people are going to show up. But it's the building process of the community and of the followers and of those who like need to get your book in their hand. It's the building process of that I think a lot of people become impatient in and
Hmm.
frustrated in. And so
Hmm.
I think a lot of people probably end up quitting around that time.
Right, right. And then I remember what I wanted to say too, with the marketing of the book. Usually, I think that you have to have it goes with the platform. Like you have to have. I think most of the authors that are successful is when they have like a coaching business or they have or they're speakers because you can sell that book from the stage. Now, for me, I avoided public speaking for a long time, but I'll speak to sell my books. So I did speaking engagement on Friday and I sold a few books. So, but for those introverted authors out there, you got to talk about your book, whether it's doing lives, whether it's speaking in person. It just has to be done. And then usually it's not the book that sells, is what you do after the book, whether it's the workshops, the speaking engagements, the lives. That's what sells, not the book itself.
Powerful. So you know who Jackie Hill Perry is?
No, I don't.
Okay. So it's funny because she is a speaker in the Christian community. I don't know what her title is, but she wrote a book and it was so funny because she made this post. Jackie always makes jokes. And she was talking just like this. She was like, "I'm supposed to get on here and tell you about my book, but I really don't want to get on here and tell you about my book." Like literally as she's doing this, I'm like, "Oh, I feel her right here." Because I don't like it's like you don't want to talk about the book, but you have to talk about the
Right.
book. There's such an
Hmm.
importance to talking about the book. But sometimes it just feels like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like
Hmm.
I wrote the book is here. Why don't you just get the book?
All right. I feel that. I feel that on so many levels. Like on Friday when I was doing the speaking about the book, I was like, well, I really want to talk to people about publishing their own books. Why do I have to talk about my own book? And then it's like also on social media, it's like you're posting about it and it's like, oh, I have to keep posting about it, but they already seen it. So then I'm getting in my head like the same people, they don't want to see about my book again. So it's like that aspect too. So
Yeah. But how do you push through it? Like how do you just be like, I just gotta do it?
How do you push through it is like you said, you just do it and then you think about the people who need to see your book. I think that's what helped me too. If I don't post it, the people who need to see it won't see it. So I think that's how I was able to push through that.
Yeah. I guess, Terry. Be clocking my tea on the podcast. So do you do a lot of speaking engagements? How do those speaking engagements go? What do you like to talk about in your speaking engagements?
So I'm actually looking to do more. I've done a speaking engagement. I did a workshop in a senior living facility a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
I saw
So,
that.
yeah, so I was talking to them about legacy book writing, and I didn't even have the idea. I was at lunch with someone who works with seniors, and she said, "Why don't you
Did you
go
say
ahead?
Lexi book writing?
Legacy."
Legacy book writing. Okay.
Legacy. So, I was at lunch with someone who works with seniors, and she said, "Well, why don't you do like a workshop for a facility?" So, and she said, "I could connect you with my contact," and I was already connected with the contact she was going to connect me with. So I connected with her, and then it just happened like that, and then I was presenting the workshop there. So, and I really like the idea because seniors hold the stories, so it's like they need to tell their stories because unfortunately none of us are going to be here forever, so we want to pass down those books to our kids, our grandkids who are going to be here when we're gone. So I've done that workshop, and I also did a workshop, or I also did the speaking on Friday about my book. It was on a cooking show. So she's and her daughter, she brought my book for her daughter who has anxiety. She said, "So you're gonna be in my cooking show." So I talked to the audience about my book, and then a couple people purchased it. And I did a workshop last year. It was not a workshop, I did a speaking engagement. It was called Message to Manuscript Guiding Experts to Books That Work. So I did that last year. And I'm just looking to do more because I feel like when people hear my voice, they get to experience Tara, not to be arrogant, but they
Oh.
they get to experience me, and then they can resonate with me, and then they'll be more inclined to learn more about me. And then sometime last year too, like I network in the same space pretty much all the time, and I've seen these women multiple times. And then we had like an author spotlight in this women's group that I attend, and I was telling them my story, and then like three women was like, "Oh, I want to get your book. I want to get your book. I want to get your book." But you already knew I had a book, but it just wasn't until I spoke that they wanted to get the book. So,
No, so two things. I definitely agree with the voice. I have a mentor and like there's like when I hear her speaking, it ignites something. I don't know if that makes
hmm
sense. Like it's just different because I'm called like she's called, how do I say that? I'm called to hear her voice, if that makes sense.
that makes
Like,
sense.
I know that God put her as my mentor, as my leader. And so when she's speaking and when she's teaching, sometimes it can be things that I know already, but because the way that she's saying it or how she's saying it, it resonates differently. And so I
hmm
definitely agree with that. Your voice matters like
hmm
entirely. And another thing, I love the workshop for the senior living because girl, we young fools sometimes. Like we don't listen to what our parents are saying. We don't understand the importance of it. And then they'll pass away, and we're like, wait, isn't there something that my mother or my father or my grandparents said about this? Like, what is it that they
hmm
said? And how do I recall this information? Because I need this information now. Also,
Right.
it's so funny. Listen. So I don't it was a couple of years ago. My mother passed away a couple like 2 years ago,
I'm
but
sorry.
several years before that, we had some company come over from another state, and I have a cousin, and she is really, baby, she outspoken. She just say whatever comes to her mind, and it was so funny because she just started like spouting off family history stuff, and I was like, wait, how come I never knew any of this info? I didn't
hmm
know any of this information, and my mom was just kind of sitting there. She was just kind of like, that's because I didn't tell you. You know what I mean? And
hmm
I think it was moments like that that made me realize how important it was to get the information while people are alive. Because when they pass away and they
hmm
don't have books telling them about the information, or you haven't had a conversation about it, you don't know those things anymore. And I think that's where things get lost. That's where history
Exactly.
gets lost and wisdom gets lost and revelation gets lost if and I know a lot of people, a lot of older people don't really stop to talk about it because they feel like nobody wants to hear them.
Right, right. And then my dad, he had passed away almost 4 years ago. And then after he passed away, I was like, I wanted to call his siblings and like, I want to learn more, like whatever he didn't tell me. So I just wanted to learn more because I didn't get to, there's certain things I didn't get to ask. So, and that's another reason why I wanted to do the legacy book because it's like, it came to me after he passed, but then I didn't really have it until like the revelation till 4 years ago when someone suggested that I do the legacy book writing workshop. And then it made me think that I wish I would have captured this. So now I'm working with my mom to get information out of her. So I started her legacy book writing, just whatever detail she shares with me. I'm like, Mom, can we just capture this? Whether it's dumb or she thinks it's stupid. So just every little thing that I just want to capture everything I can.
Oh no, I think that is absolutely beautiful. There is history and stories there that we just don't know. And
Hmm.
her sister passed away last year, and their only living brother came to the funeral, and he started telling stories. And baby, I was in that funeral like. And immediately after, because my cousin was there too, I was like, girl, did you know that? Like, why didn't I know this information? And so it sent me on a little bit of a hunt to find out information. So beautiful, beautiful what you are doing in a senior living community. I think that is such a blessing, not just for the seniors, but for the people who will receive that information and revelation
Thank you.
from those singers. So, is there anything else that you want to share with the community? Any extra tips? How can we contact you? Do you have any workshops or speaking engagements coming up?
So the best way to reach me, I can give you my email address. It's Tara Hayes. So my first and last name, TaraHayes, books, BOOKS @gmail.com. So that's my email. You can reach me by there. I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me over there. It's Tara Hayes or Tara Martina Hayes. And I do have a author cohort coming up we're starting on Saturday. And it's for authors who have an idea for a book, but they don't know where to start, or even if they have a draft and they need help getting that draft done. And the cohort is for 10 weeks. It's going to be me and another coach. We're partnering to give the author structure, teach them how to write their book, teach them how to edit their book, and also within this cohort, you'll have a published book by the end of it because we're going to do the cover for you. We're going to do the formatting. We're going to do the editing. So we're going to do everything within that 10 weeks. And don't worry about the 10-week timeline because if you don't get done within 10 weeks, we're going to touch base with you weekly until you're done. So we're not going to abandon you if you're not done within the 10 weeks. So that's what I have coming up. And I just would love for more people to become authors because there's stories out there to tell. And we don't want to die with our music inside of us. So we want to share our stories and share our music. And speaking engagements, I have something coming up on February 26th. I'm going to be speaking on someone else's platform on a LinkedIn Live. So I'm going to be talking about the difference between each platform to publish on. So Amazon, Ingram Spark, and Draft to Digital. So the platform to choose and just giving information about the platforms, the do's and don'ts about the platforms.
Love it. Yeah, that's nice. I like that. I'm gonna have to attend that one, girl. Make sure you're sharing it on your LinkedIn, right? Are you
I
only
need
on
to.
LinkedIn?
I am on Instagram and Facebook, but I don't use those right now because I'm just trying to build up LinkedIn and then I'll eventually come back to those
Which you
platforms.
just got 2K followers. Good
Yeah.
job. Listen, LinkedIn is a totally different beast, like
Hmm.
than all other platforms. If you're consistent, like it's great. Like, you meet a lot of great contacts. I think I've met a lot of great people on there that I've actually had on the podcast.
Hmm.
So it is a great space. So I think that, yeah, keep
Hmm.
working that space. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your knowledge with us in the publishing company. Ken and Wife Mom Boss, if you have a story to tell, if you have a draft, if you have an idea, make sure that you reach out. If hopefully to Tara, if not to Tara, then another publisher to make sure you get your story out. Your story is important. Your voice is like you're assigned to someone, and someone's assigned to you to hear what you have to say. It could it could shift their lives, and so make sure you get that story out and let anything hold you back. All right, we're gonna see you next week for another episode. Until then, have an amazing week, and we love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you catch us every week here on the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast, where we are bringing you new episodes, new content, new information, new empowerment, new strategies, and new strength. Until then, I'll catch you next time.